right. Welcome, folks. Happy Saturday right now. In the house, we have Henning Morales. Hope you are doing awesome out there today. We've got some amazing topics to talk about today. Henning has been an entrepreneur. He's ran and built all different types of companies. He actually built his own network marketing company. He ran network marketing companies. He built his own marketing agencies. He built a film, and he's written a bunch of different books. We actually have one of his books, a little short little book that we're going to show out here today. And then he's also got another book called The Dirt Merchants, and they're actually making a movie on it. And they've actually made a movie, and there's actually another movie in the works after this movie. They're actually working on selling the movie now out to like Amazon Prime. We're trying to market it. They're doing broadcast of it. They've made a little short film. So Henning, it's awesome having you today. We had an amazing night the other night. Me, you, and Aaron, who's actually the producer of this show right now, in the back over there, if anyone wants to put a camera on Aaron. But I don't think he likes himself shown. But we had a great night hearing your story. Yeah. And I would love to go through your story and share what you wanted to talk about today. Like, you know, before we even went online, I asked him, like, hey, what's in your heart to share today? What's showing up? And he was like, it's funny because we've actually had all these shows recently where all these, like, you've been extremely successful. You've done a lot of really cool things. One of the things that showed up in like a lot of the shows we've shot just recently is humility, and that was a fascinating thing that just showed up. And you're definitely a humble guy for all the things you've done, all the companies you've ran, all the things you've built. The movie's awesome. So I'd love to talk today. We'll start off first, like, man, why'd you write this book? And what are you doing now, and like with the book and the movie, and what's happening with it, and where'd the story come from? And I'd love for the audience to hear like how you grew up, how your life changed, you know what I mean? And like what transpired.
Sure.
So please share, and this is your camera over
Thank
here.
You.
And
great. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
I appreciate the opportunity, and it's we did have a great night the other night. We're getting to know each other and developing a friendship, which is great. I've been hearing about you for a long time, and now we finally get the chance to hang out.
We spoke together really cool. A few times at a bunch of different events now over the last 6 months or whatever.
It's cool, yeah. So for me, Troy, I'll start at the beginning, and you can jump in anytime and
go for it, man. I'd love to hear it.
And maybe emphasize something or the other, ask additional questions. But for me, the motivation to do what I do now, which is coaching, teaching, training, educating, inspiring young people. And we say young people, it's ages 8 to 108. So it's not, it's not the, maybe we can go a little bit bigger with all the people living longer these days, but it's not necessarily the age, it's the idea of the youthfulness of an individual. Like, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to challenge yourself and become better? And also, Jay and I were talking at the break about the need for positive coaching for young people. It seems like when we get older, we kind of, based on the pressures of competition, we figure out how to get better and how to improve ourselves. But when we're younger, we miss that. And there's a huge void there. So that's what I do, and my passion for doing that kind of work through books and films and events.
Like why are you spending all this time and money? I mean, you've invested millions of dollars, like tens of thousands of hours into this now. Yeah. Like why? Like, where did this come from?
It's interesting because it's interesting how life works. It started when I was a kid, and a couple of things that happened to me back then. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood, average, probably middle class, maybe upper middle class. My father was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and I had good friends. I was happy-go-lucky, pretty much, good student. But my passion was to play baseball. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to replace Greg Nettles at third base for the New York Yankees. That's all I wanted to do. Yes. I didn't have any other purpose in life. That was my dream. And I in my opinion, I was a good baseball player. And I made every All-Star team. And I was always on the any traveling team that they would put together. I was either starting catcher, or starting third base, and we won the New Jersey State champs, which I was very proud of. Right. Highlight of my life in 1981. Nice. I was 15. Yep. So that was my purpose. It was to play baseball, and I would work 2-a-days, 3-a-day trainings. I would go summers, and that was all I wanted to do. And I played multiple sports. I played football. I played wrestling also. And during wrestling, I had an injury. I had a long story short, an injury that caused me not to be able to play sports at all. No sports. Right? I was trying to bridge out of of a pin, and
So you're
that had
like
my
a
head.
hardcore sports guy.
Yeah,
And
it
all of a
was.
sudden, nope, no moss.
Yeah. I was the captain of the wrestling team. We were sparring, and
Yeah.
and he got me, and he got me.
Yeah.
So for me at that point, and that was really a defining moment of my entire life. That day when that happened, and the screams, and how the pain of it all, and how that all happened, and being taken to the hospital and passing out in the ambulance, and everyone coming over, and I'm basically lying, lifeless. Not only the physical pain of that day, but then what happens next, like the aftermath of that. And in my mind, at 15 years old, in my mind, my life was over.
Yeah.
There was no more life, because this was everything to me.
That was everything.
Yeah, my coaches were my mentors.
Right.
My friends were on the baseball team or on the wrestling team, and that's where, again, when you're 15, 16, the girls, that's where the cheerleaders are, and all that. Your whole life is there. And for me, everything changed at that moment, and I got pretty much went into a severe depression. Now, and at the time, again,
I didn't even know this part of the story, man.
yeah, my parents, again, this is where kind of the coaching comes in a little bit for parents and coaches and whatnot. My parents really, and again, it's different time now than back then. Back then, we were called the Generation X, like the kids who were left to their own devices growing up. We were kind of on our own. Our parents were either, were either yuppies trying to make it in the business world, or they were ex-hippies that were finding themselves, and a lot of the people in my generation, growing up, didn't get a lot of attention from their parents, and that's a whole nother topic. But for me, my parents really didn't pay a lot of attention to me because I was always okay. They never, well, Henning, he's okay. He's a good student. He's jokes around all the time, and he's good at sports. I never got in any trouble. Yeah. And I was basically left alone, which is a mistake to parents. The parents listening, that's a mistake. Okay, no matter how good you think your kid has it, it's still good. It's still important to get to know and to see if something goes wrong.
Because the whole episode we just shot on this recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my parents were very indifferent to what was going on with me, and I didn't want to talk to them about my depression. Right, I didn't want to burden them, and they didn't really know me. Again, my father, he never came to one baseball game, and that's okay because it didn't matter to me. I had enough. I didn't really need, but now I kind of probably needed more. And
so what happened at that point?
Well, at that point, I started getting in trouble. Started getting in fights at school, and I would start cutting.
I'm watching you live.
That's
now.
okay. Thank you, bud.
I'm watching you live. We got Henning live on here. So hopefully we try to respond to some people with questions.
Go ahead.
Henning, so keep going.
Feel free. So to me, I just started getting in trouble, small-time troublemaking, and because I was completely lost.
Yeah.
I thought if I got in enough trouble, I would get attention from the other kids. I could, be the center of attention, or I was just confused as to what I should do. And nothing really major, but as I got a little bit older, the problems started getting to be worse and worse, and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, so
you started hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Absolutely, yeah, and I started because my friends were athletes. They were on the baseball team. They were as I said, on the wrestling and football team. They were athletes, and they were also good. We were good kids. We weren't. Yeah. We were kind of troublesome, but not anything major. But as my troublemaking got worse and worse, and I just started to go. There was in our school, and I described this in the first book. It's very funny. There was basically 5 doors where kids hung out at Teaneck High School, where I grew up. There was the jock door where all the jocks hung out, and there was the door with the kids who were kind of the drug addict or rock. They listen to like the heavy rock and roll music, kind of druggy door. We call it the druggy door. And different doors. So and then there was the kind of the juvenile delinquent door, and so you would kind of pass that to get to the other ones. And then we kind of had our own little door, our group. Yeah. So as I got a little bit worse and worse, I kind of get closer to the juvenile delinquent kind of door, and getting worse and worse. And by the time I was 17, I had gotten in every kind of trouble you could think of. My parents were upset. My friends thought I was crazy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was cutting classes. I was probably not going to graduate, and it was just a bad time. And I never forget, my mentality, which at the time, because teenagers, a lot of times things are black and white.
Yeah.
Things are either good or bad.
Yeah.
Things are black or they're white. Or I'm going to be with this group or I'm going to be with that group,
Yeah.
but you can't be with both. A lot of times that's what happens with kids. They haven't developed that sense of the distinction that you can that things aren't always cut and dry, right? So for me, I was probably getting to a point where I was going to start committing crimes if something didn't happen because the people I was hanging out with, right? Yeah. And so it was the first day of summer, and I was actually hanging out with one of my quote unquote good friends. I had good friends, and then I had the juvenile delinquent friends. So I was hanging out with my good friend.
And this is very common for kids. Like a lot of different these scenarios, very much relatable. Even still today, the same genres keep occurring in some capacity. So keep going.
Absolutely. So my very good friend, my best friend, actually, we're on his couch of his basement, and we're watching TV. It was like an MTV video or something on, and we have no money, right? Because my allowance had been taken away because of the car I crashed, and I had to pay for the crash car, so I had no allowance, right? And you could survive during the year with lunch money, and then you could use that to buy cigarettes and other things that we would buy at that time. I don't know if this is a family show or not. I won't get into it.
No, it's reality. Whatever the truth is, Henning, like just let it go.
You name it.
Tell the story. Like the reality. That's the truth. Like people want to hear like the truth behind the truth. Like what is it? Like what's the crap you got into? Like what does your life really look like? How can like? And I've got friends that are so down on their kids. They're like, oh, my kid's a disaster right now. My kid's screwing up. My kid's hanging out with the wrong crowd. My kid's skipping school. My kid's making poor grades. My kid's smoking. They're drinking. They're doing pot. Whatever they're doing. Right. And these parents, like I have a lot of friends' parents that they're worried. And I'm like, I was a disaster in high school, and look where I'm at today. Right. You know what I mean? And that's part of it. Is like these stories can be good or bad. It's not going to be indicative of their entire life. Of course. But what is it that's going to create that shift or the change that puts somebody in a different direction? Right. Because at 17, 18, my life shifted and changed in a massive way because I found something called Amway, and I got exposed to books, tapes, and functions. Right. Literally. And I got exposed to motivational speakers, and I got exposed to like, oh my God, here's a possible, catch this, a vision for your life. Like someone showed me what my life actually could be like one day. And I'll never forget it. I was at an Amway conference, and I watched this one speaker, and he's talking about him and his wife literally with their kids going down this river in Europe on like a little boat or something that you can have dinner on and everything else. And I remember the image was so vivid. Like I pictured Europe as this amazing, like faraway place, almost impossible. It was like a fairy tale hearing. It was like, and he was talking about having a lake house and like all his friends living on the lake together. And it was like painted this massive picture of what my life could be. And it was hanging around those people with listening to them speak, getting around different people and reading these books, tapes, and functions that like really kind of transformed my life and said, okay, this is the direction I want to go. So keep going. What was your story? Well, if we, that's again, we're so our minds are so connected in that realm, and the importance of hanging out with the right people and being mentored by the right people, but before, well, you talk about tell me some of the things I did. But I'll share if it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Share, like be real honest. Yeah, and again, real, raw, and relevant. No, it's but nothing like for me at the time it wasn't any big deal. I threw I was a substitute teacher in a physics class, and I threw a desk chair combination out the window, third floor window. So that's one of the things I did. That's not a brave thing to do. I got kicked out of that class. That's not going to be. You're not going to show up well in high school those things. I got kicked out of that class. I jumped from a 3-foot roof into a 3-foot pool with a bunch of kids hanging around. And 3-foot roof. Three-story roof. I'm sorry. 3-story roof. Yeah, sorry, 3-story roof. So that was pretty dumb. Yeah. And I also, like I said, I would pick fights with the kids that were the biggest. Like I wouldn't, like to me, like bullying was like the worst thing ever. Like anyone who picked on, because I was smaller, growing up, but I was feisty. Correct. So I would find the biggest kid I could find and just start fights with them. I'd throw my books at them, and they would be like, "What are you doing?" And
And it was just dumb. There was one kid.
High school stuff.
There was one kid who every time I saw him, I got so angry that I had to start a fight with him. And we had like 10 fights.
He triggered you.
He triggered me, right?
Why did he trigger you out of curiosity?
He liked my girlfriend or something like that, or I heard
Yeah.
from somebody, and that was unheard of, right? You can't do that to me, right? So, all these feelings of all these juvenile feelings that you have, I was acting out on them, and I got good at doing that. Finally, I saw that kid. His name was Keith, by the way. I saw him at a mall. Right, so we were off school. So usually our fights were at school, and then we were off school, and I saw him, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing here? You can't walk down this mall." I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? Like I told the guy, "I can't be," and I'm taking off my coat to fight him, and he punched me as hard as anyone could be punched, right in the face, and broke my nose in 2 places. I still have the scars. And then I tackled him, and we went into a jewelry store, and we knocked over all the displays and everything, and the security guards came, and
you were a troublemaker.
It was
literally.
But it was Keith. I had to do it. It was part of it.
So
it was my nemesis, right?
So what happened? Where did the switch come in?
So I'm sitting on my couch. You asked it.
Yeah.
So I should add a share.
This is good. We're back to the couch.
So I'm on the couch with my friend, and we're watching MTV. We got no money because of the no allowance, right? And so we said we got to get jobs. We cannot go summer. And the summer before, my friend Joe and I promised to tell the story because Jay, we actually had my same friend. We actually started an odd jobs business. That summer. So I was always money motivated, even though all this stuff was going on. I always liked to make money.
Yeah.
So we started this, and we had these flyers printed up, and we had my little brother, who was 10 years old at the time, hand out the flyers in the neighborhood, and we got all these jobs. It was unbelievable. Like we got jobs cutting lawns, we got jobs trimming hedges, and we got jobs cleaning roofs. Roofs were the best because you could clear. Nobody wants to go up on their roof to clear out the leaves on their roof, right? They don't want to do that. So we would show up, and we would show up on my friend's moped. He was driving, and you know what a moped is? A motorized bicycle. And we had the big ladder, right? I'm on the back of the ladder. We show up. And we go on the roof, and it takes like 10 minutes to clear out the leaves, and then you could stay up there and hang out and just because they would pay you like $40, which is a lot of money.
A lot of money back then.
That's the week's worth of it. So we get this job. Painting. Right?
Minimum wage was only like $1.50, $1.75 back then. FYI, everybody.
Not that old. I am old, but not that old. I'm so we got this job, and I'll tell this quick because I know we want to get on to the other. But we got this job. Painting a house, right? We're gonna paint the whole house. We're 14 years old, mind you, okay? So, and we're gonna paint. They hired us to paint the whole house. Two of us, right? And I wish we had Jay's mentoring because we could have figured out a better business plan for this. But I think we charged like $200, right? $200 to paint this whole house, right? And the paint cost us like $100, right? And then we worked for a week, and we weren't even like halfway done with this house. Yeah. My friend quits on me right now. And it was my neighborhood. So my parents were like, any business you do in this neighborhood, you better come through, right? So it was my neighborhood. So I hired my other friend to finish. And finally, we just couldn't finish the house. And I was there for like 3 weeks trying to finish painting this house and never got done. No happy ending.
That's where you need to hire. College work. Everybody, right?
Exactly. So that's a true story. I hired my other friend Anthony. He said, "Forget this. I'd pay him. I lost money on the job."
Would have been great if you had a Jason Reed in your life to coach you in college.
That would have been very important. So we're sitting on the couch, and we have to get jobs. My friend and I, who did the summer jobs, I forgave him, and now we're back to the couch. Back to the couch.
We're back to the couch, folks. Third time back to the couch. Go for it.
And so we answer this little ad in the paper, and we go down for this sales job, and that was the next defining moment of my life. And I would say of the top 10 things that ever happened to me, the day I broke my back, and then the day that I went into this job interview where I met my mentor. And everything changed instantly. It didn't take months and months, didn't take weeks and weeks. It changed that day.
Like that.
Because I met somebody who acted like a coach. And he was young. He was 23, I was 17. And he had all the toys. He had the Jag parked outside. He had a condo. He had his boat. He was making money. And he was happy. He was genuinely happy, which to me was a foreign concept. Okay, I hadn't smiled in a year. True story. I hadn't smiled in a year. I had a 17-year-old kid.
Wow.
Okay. So, and all the people that was working for him were happy. They had something called a positive attitude. I learned what that was. I knew what a bad attitude was because everyone would tell me I had a bad attitude. That's why what a bad attitude.
Trouble,
But I didn't know you could have a good attitude. I didn't know that there was a good, attitude was a bad thing, right?
Yes.
You got an attitude, right? So I learned about goal setting. I learned about how to set a goal, how to visualize a goal. I learned about.
He taught you all this.
He taught me.
Catch this, at 23 years old, this guy that Henning met when he was 17 became his mentor. Doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, you can be a mentor to anybody around you at any age, no matter where you're at in life. So you can, if you know one thing more than somebody else, you can pour that into someone else's life. Keep going, Henning.
Absolutely, and it was him primarily, and then he had some of his guys that were up big high up in the company. But the business that they brought me into, Troy, was insane. It was literally street sales, like you pull up to someone in your car, you pop the trunk, and there's the merchandise. that was the business, right? So not only can
is it like the stereo guys that used to pull up in the remember the stereo guys? They have the big vans and they open the van doors and they sell you speakers out of the back of the vans.
I don't want to get off track, but I can tell you about those guys. Those guys came out of that time.
That's
the guys
this is back 90s.
This is 80s. This is 1983 when this was going
that's crazy.
on. Okay, so the speaker guys and all of this came out of our group. I'll tell you that's a separate story for a different day. We're doing it today. But that was the situation, right? And we would do it all over New York and New Jersey, and we were on the streets selling.
This was legal.
Yeah.
This was legal. Okay, got it.
Yeah, permits, licenses, Better Business Bureau, all. But it was something that was kind of the lowest class of salesman that you could be, and then that's where the name of the book comes, The Dirt Merchants. That's why you used to call us the Dirt Merchants, because we always got dirty and we were on the streets and it was gritty and.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the book title came from you guys literally hitting the streets, doing street sales.
Yes.
Literally door to door knocking, like parking lot to parking lot.
Parking lot to parking lot. Yeah, no doors. Parking
lot to parking lot, just selling stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how you guys made your money.
Yeah.
That was like that's hardcore.
Yeah. So I learned how to hire people. I learned how to coach and train other people at that time, because you could have a little sales team, and I became even though it was an insane business, and even though my mentors were young and really inexperienced, they were experienced at that, but you mentioned mentorship. It doesn't matter how old, but sometimes you get into a situation and the situation isn't ideal, but you still learn and can grow from there.
Correct.
So I became the top guy in the company, 700 people. I broke every record that there was at 17.
There were 700 people?
Yeah. And 13 offices.
And it was owned by?
By my mentor.
This guy that was 23.
Yeah.
Now at the time, probably 25, 27.
No, it was all happened in 1 year.
All
of this happened in 1 year, yeah.
So we had 700 people working with him when he was 23, 24.
There are 13 offices all over New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut. And
think about this. Like, it doesn't matter what age you're at and where you're at in life. Like, you can build a business and be extremely successful no matter what. In some area of your life, if you're just willing to freaking literally grind it out and hit the streets, you know what I mean? Literally hit the streets.
But what was most important about that time was the coaching and mentoring. Learning, there was an 8 steps to success. There was a 5 steps to a sales presentation. And the 8 steps to success is what was like drilled into you. So I learned, as I told you, about goal setting, about going the extra mile, working harder than the next guy, spending that extra hour out in the field. Learned about how to deal with adult people and how to communicate and how
this guy
to sell.
taught all this.
All this, yeah.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So I became the top guy. In fact, there was a record on Fridays. We used to go out all night. We call them all-nighters, right? You go out all night, 24 hours, literally no sleep. You go and you work 24 hours.
That's awesome.
There's a big contest, right?
Yes.
Every Friday there's a big contest. Big contest. Jay's laughing at me. There's a big contest every Friday night, and you set goals, and everyone would bet. They'd bet each other, and then the boss would bet you, and you'd bet them, and it was this whole thing. And then you'd come back, and it was a card game. If you hit your quota, you got 5 cards in the card game.
Yeah.
If any sale above your quota, you got an extra card. And whoever hit their quotas in the game, and they were dealing the card, and there's cash in the middle. It was crazy.
It's
right?
brilliant.
And brilliant.
Talk about marketing, motivation, inspiring your sales team, like getting people to do incredible stuff. That's a great story.
Yeah. So I'll tell you one last story, and we'll move on to the other phase of life. But I decide I'm gonna break the record, break the company record, right? On an all-nighter, this company record was 92 sales. That's 92 sales in a day, okay? And the challenge with trying to do 92 sales in a day is that you could only fit so many boxes in your car, right?
Yeah.
And if you were lucky enough to get a van, then you could possibly do it. But also, my mentor, my boss, he wouldn't let you ride with anyone really good. You would have to ride with somebody who wasn't that good so you could train them. So so on these Fridays, a lot of times you're stuck with somebody who's not that good. You're doing all the work.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out a way to ride with somebody that we call them hitters. Like if you were a hitter, that means you were good.
Yeah.
Hitter also means a good-looking female. That was those two. But a hitter is
this is New Jersey, folks, in the early '80s.
Yeah.
FYI.
So a hitter is either a good-looking female, or it's somebody who's really like a top guy.
Got it.
And there was one guy that was in the office that was working, and he was definitely. I had trained him, and he was really good. He was definitely a hitter, but he was problematic.
I'm thinking Sopranos in my head right now.
Yes.
Is what I'm thinking. Sopranos. Keep going.
So his name is Timmy, and we used to call him Crazy Timmy,
Yeah.
right? Because he was out of his mind. He was half the time he wouldn't show up, half the time but when he did show up, he was really good.
He was on point.
And
He was
anytime,
ready.
he was
closer.
on, and he would do drugs out in the field, and he would yell at the customers. I mean, this guy was like bad, but when he was good,
he was on point.
and then when I worked with him, I could always work with him. So I convinced my boss to let me work with Crazy Timmy. And we're going to work and we're going to break the record. And he said, "You're out of your mind. How are you going to do it? There's no way." And so he let me do it. He said, just to prove me wrong, right?
Yeah.
And everybody laughed. Everybody, all the guys, there's 30 guys in the office.
Yeah.
And I told them, I'm going to break the record, and I'm not going to just go for 93 sales. I'm going to go for 110. I'm going to go 18 sales above the record. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm 17. Most of the people there are 24, 25 years. I'm the youngest person in the whole company, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm telling everybody, and I'm in their face, and again, it's Jersey in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm cursing at them. I'm yelling at them, telling them about how bad what their mother did or this and that, right? and just to egg them on so they would bet.
Yes.
So we wanted the bets, right? So if I hit the goal, then I make $1,000. Make $1,000 each. Okay?
And I love this point. Literally setting a goal so far beyond the record. This is good points. This story alone, if you're just catching the key points of this, mentorship, like setting goals, learning how to actually have a skill. There's like a formula to apply, and the mentor taught him all this.
Yeah.
Like, keep going. This is fantastic.
Yeah. So we go and we challenge everybody in the office, and they all laugh at us and they all bet us, right? So if we win with the card game, because there's a card game, and we're definitely going to win the card game, and because we got so many cards in the game, right? We have our quota was 65 sales. And so we would get a lot of cards in the game. But if we don't hit our goal, right, then we probably lose like $1,000.
Yeah.
Then we work all night, lose $1,000. So that
didn't work so well.
That's a bad idea, right?
This wasn't labor laws here involved at the time. FLSA laws were not in play here. Keep going.
So we set out to break the record, right, Timmy and I. And he had his bandana on. I'll never forget. Timmy's 21, and he's tall, and he's a big guy, looks like a Norse type of guy, long hair, long blonde hair, and a big bandana. And we go out. We got a van, which was the key, right?
It's all about the van.
And you also another thing you had to do. You had to talk the boss into going and reloading you up in the middle of the night, because you're going to run out. Even with the van, you're going to run out of merchandise at about 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So we started. And we started out in, if you know the area, we started out in Long Island, in Deer Park. That's where we started. Deer Park, Long Island was where we started. And we started working our way back towards Queens, through Nassau, Suffolk County, Nassau County, Queens, and then around Sunrise Highway, and then up around to Jersey City, where we'd wind up. And we're going along, and it's 6 o'clock, and we got like 30 off. And again, I don't know the exact numbers. We had about 30, right? And then it becomes like 9 o'clock, and we have about 50. Now, 50 is considered like a great all-nighter. 50. But it's only 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So we're on track. So at midnight, we got like 70. Okay?
All right.
And I called my boss, my mentor, and I said, "Hey,
time to reload.
Yeah,
let's make this happen."
He says, "Man, you're early. How many you got?"
Right?
He said, "Okay, awesome."
Yes.
So we drove back to the warehouse. He met us over there, reloaded, gave him a bunch of money that we had collected, right?
Yeah.
And then we went back out. And here's what's interesting. We by 4 o'clock in the morning, we got like 85, 90, right? So we're right there.
Yeah.
And so let's get some sleep. So we slept for like 2 hours, 4 to 6, right? And then we get up and we go. And for, I think it was 2 or 3 hours, we hit a dry spell.
Really?
No one's buying.
No one's you're at the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. People are getting their coffee in the morning. No one's buying anything
No one's
from
buying. And I can't let Timmy lose it.
Yeah.
Because if the whole time I'm keeping him focused and motivated, right? So I can't let him get off track. Because if he gets off track, he might just walk away.
Yeah.
You know, leave me hanging,
Yeah.
right? So we start yelling at customers. We start throwing the stuff down if they don't. But we lose in our minds, right? We work 24 hours. We're about to lose everything,
Correct.
and we got to show back up at that office, and they're gonna bust our chops so bad we will never live it down, right?
Correct.
So we pull over in, I'll never forget, pull over in this alley, right? And I gave him like a pep talk. Like I said, Timmy, we got to get it together. We've lost it. We've got to keep it together. We got to focus.
See, you created a shift.
Yes.
You had a crucial conversation. You collided with them, right? With love to change the energy, huh?
I'm yelling and screaming at him.
Yes.
I don't think I hit him, but I was close to, because that's you could hit each other. That wouldn't be a problem. Like I didn't get that
It
far.
was Jersey
but
in the 80s. Again, back to
You're the
Sopranos.
dirt merchants.
Yeah, the dirt merchants.
Hitting's allowed, okay?
The book title is The Dirt Merchants, by the way. Keep going. This is great.
So he looks straight ahead, right? And he fixes his bandana.
Yeah.
And he says, "Let's go." And I said, "Let's go." And then what had happened was we lost our edge. We lost our good attitude.
Yeah.
Through frustration, and we were tired. We're
You were having
sweaty.
a bad attitude.
We were having a bad attitude.
Not a positive attitude.
Not a positive attitude, right? And that rubs off on customers. And
Correct.
that's the first golden
something's
rule
gonna happen.
of sales. Keep your good attitude.
Yeah.
If you have a bad attitude, get it right, right? So we got it right. Still another hour goes by, no sales, right? And we got to be back at the office at 12.
Yeah.
So it's like 9 o'clock in the morning now. But we're still having our good attitude. Everything's fine. And keep in mind, we're on the streets. We're in parking lots. We're talking to people.
Jersey,
we're talking
in the 80s.
This was now we're in Jersey. We were out in
some sketchy places.
Yeah,
back then.
we were grabbing people from under their cars. Hey, come on out, take a look at this. And we're going in stores and the back of restaurants and bars and wherever you can find people, right? So, but we kept our good attitude.
Yeah.
But we still another hour went. No sales. And we got to be back. And like literally, like the office is 20 minutes away. We got an hour, right?
Wow.
And then before you knew it, boom. Guy buys 5, guy buys 4, guy buys 3. And at 11:30, we had our number, had 110.
Wow.
And we drove back singing the Beatles. I never forget it was a Beatles song, Hard Day's Night. We were singing because Hard Day's Night because you're working on Hard Day's Night, right? We were singing all the way back, all tape. We got all the way back to the office, and we got to the office, and everyone was out. Everyone was out. The people in the office, the people from the other office came over. The secretaries, everyone was out there. They were waiting, right?
Yeah.
And then we gave them thumbs up, and they all cheered.
They're like, woo! Yes, way to go.
So we won. We got all our bets, and we won the card game. And I slept for like 2 days after that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So catch this, folks. Like this story is loaded with like incredible truths. You know what I mean? And I love the fact you set the goal and then crushed it, and like, and then not only that, but had the crucial conversation with his partner. Like this applies to literally every area of life where he collided with the guy and said, "Hey, we're having a shitty attitude right now. We need to switch it around real quick. We have a positive attitude and stay focused on our goal." And you casted the vision back into him again and be like, "Hey, we can do this. We can fucking crush this.
Absolutely.
We can make this happen. We can actually literally hit our goal and impact." And you're doing this at 17.
Yeah.
This is impressive.
Yeah.
So where did your life go? And then from here, and I guess the question is like, you started writing this book. I know like you built all these companies. You had all this amazing company going on in LA. And then why write this book now? Like what happened? And then the movie too. I want to make sure we get to the movie before we have to drop off.
Sure.
And tell people how they're going to watch the clips or find the movie or all of this.
Yeah,
So,
I just like telling the stories. That's all.
and it's great. You're doing a great job of telling the story.
So when all was said and done, and that was over, that things happened. You know, I want people to read the book. It's all there, right?
Yeah.
So to tell the story, it was all over. When all was said and done, I realized, and I had dropped out of high school to do that business full time. Like there was no time for school back then.
You dropped out of high school.
Oh yeah, I was a high school dropout. And when all was said and done, I had money saved up in the bank. I had 2 cars. I had, but I had lost my mentors. I had lost my mentors. And again, a whole series of events, how that happened and how the crash and burn. I decided to go back to school. I listened to an audio program by Dennis Waitley. Okay?
I love Dennis Waitley.
Seeds of Greatness.
I got to meet Dennis Waitley in Orlando one time and also in Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
It was amazing, man. His books are amazing.
Well, my uncle had dropped off an audio program, and I didn't know at that time. I'm 19 or 18 or turn 19. I didn't know there was such a thing as like a personal development book that you could read. I didn't know that there were courses you could take. I didn't know that there was like a tape that you could listen to.
Yeah.
I didn't know that any of that existed.
I didn't either until I found college Amway. Like really, I didn't.
And this again,
didn't really click in my mind.
Well, you have a similar experience because you, at a young age, you were exposed to certain things, but a lot of kids aren't, and they have no idea that this world exists. So I thought they were making all this they were making all this stuff up, and I realized you could read it and go in a book. So basically, what I got from Dennis Waitley, who was a much more sophisticated personal development. He's a doctor.
He's a master.
And the U.S. had just hosted the Olympics at that time. He was coaching the athletes in the 80s, and he talked about education and learning. And I never thought about that, and so I decided to go back to school. So I went back, got my GED, which is a whole other adventure, and then went to community college for 1 year and transferred to NYU, where I graduated honors Dean's List every semester at NYU, made Dean's List. I'm a University Honors Scholar, met the president and had a big dinner. My parents came, everyone proud and everything.
That's so awesome.
And so I took the knowledge that I learned from my mentors, I applied it to school and bettering myself, improving myself, right? And mind you, when I went back to school, I was at a 15-year-old reading level. When I went back to school, I was trying to do college courses.
Correct.
So I moved out to California to go to law school. Not smart enough. I had this whole thing where I got to get smart. My self-esteem was
literally having the mentors, having the motivational books, having these personal development books motivated you enough to change your life enough to crush it in business at a very young age, then go back to college, excel in college, move out here thinking you're going to go to law school. So now we're from Jersey to California now.
I'm living in San Diego. I'm in law school and happy. I was working during the day and I was going to school at night at University of San Diego, great school. And I started to, the guys in my company started asking me to do talks, like motivational talks to the sales guys, right? Yeah. And I loved it. I found my passion again. I said, okay, now I'm smart enough. I've been to law school. I don't really want to become a lawyer. I'm just trying to get smarter, and I think I can do it. So I started to speak and coach sales, do sales training and sales coaching.
That's awesome.
And I traveled the world doing that. Did that for 10 years. Traveled the world, been everywhere I wanted to go. My bucket list crossed off everywhere I want to visit, and coach and teach and train. But what I primarily did, you'll get a kick out of this, what I was primarily doing in my talks was telling those stories about the dirt merchant days. And
They're great stories.
So I would tell these stories, and these were white collar, like IBM
there's so much
types.
Truth in it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many good
points. And so they would start requesting the stories at the different cities I would go to. Can you tell the story about the burning car? Tell us about when you broke the record. So I'm getting these requests. So I said, wow, people like these stories. Maybe if I wrote the stories down, it would make a good book. Somebody would buy the book. Maybe somebody will buy this book someday. And I'm going to make sure if I write this book, it's going to have all the lessons in there that I learned. Yeah. So maybe a kid could read it and then discover something.
And that's what you wrote it toward. You wrote it toward so you wrote this book.
Yeah.
The Dirt Merchants targeting young people.
Yeah.
Targeting the teenagers. So if anyone's out there listening today, and they can buy this book, right?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
If you have kids, if you have young people, this is a great gift to teenagers, young adults, people in college.
Thank you. Yeah.
To give out as gifts, even with Christmas coming up and everything.
Yeah.
A great gift, another gift to buy.
Absolutely.
Where it can actually impact a teenager's life or a young person, someone in college. So when we were talking, I think it's like 14 to 24, 25 would be able to read this book and laser in on this. Because a lot of young people have read it, you said, and have literally impacted their life. So
yeah, fortunately, when the book came out a couple of years ago, I got a lot of positive feedback from not only young people. It was primarily the young group that was just fascinated. because I tried to write it, and hopefully I did it successfully, try to write it from a perspective of the kid, which was me, right? So even though it's a third-person novel, I try to make sure that I get the mindset right so that kids will really get it. Keep it simple, keep it direct, to the point. And when you follow this kid, you got to go
back to young people, get them to get their attention. I was trying to think, like, what would it, like, I wouldn't have read anything or listened to anything unless it was like really specifically targeted to me. Like, I was just hanging out with my friends, lifeguarding. Like, there's no way, like, if I wasn't exposed to some vision, or like you had a mentor or something with that, like, you know what I mean? So keep going.
when you get into the book, you'll see I took 1/3 of the book, and it was high school. The first third of the book is all the high school time.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to get the kids to pay attention, right? Because it's all high school stuff, and the girls and the guys and the troublemaking and the teachers and the baseball and all the stuff that was happening. And then it gets into the heavy duty, sales and business side and the life lessons. So I did that, and people liked it, but also some educators got a hold of it. High school teachers. Professors, these PhDs that were coaching on this thing called youth mentorship and coaching kids. And I didn't even know that this was like something, like a thing, because when I was a kid, there was no program you could go to that was helping kids, right? But now there's all these programs that help teenagers and all the things that are going on with teenagers. So that opened up a whole nother world to me of possibilities to share the message. And believe it, and I never thought that this would happen. And in the meantime, the whole time I'm still running my company, still bringing up a family. I got 4 kids of my own. I got 2 sets of kids with 2 exes. Don't try that. That did not work. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
You were not mentored in this area.
I was not mentored in relationships.
You didn't hire a good coach or consultant in this area.
I can work with my kids, but those exes.
Kids are great.
Yeah, the kids are great. I can't. They're all great. They're all great. I just don't. I'm missing something. So maybe I'll learn how that works. But I'm running my company. I'm bringing up, raising families. So I'm living life, right? Yeah. So I didn't know that this whole thing was going to open up, and it's to kind of cap off this story and bring it back home. I start getting phone calls from these very prestigious youth organizations for me to go talk and speak at their youth organizations because people had read the book and they wanted me to come. So I started doing that, and then I got a phone call from one of my friends from back in New Jersey, in Teaneck, where I grew up, and she said, "Hey, guess what? The Teaneck High School, the school that I went to, my high school, right, that I dropped out of, that I terrorized for 2 years, right? They want you to come and do an assembly for the entire student body."
Wow.
2 talks, every student, right?
That's so awesome.
And I was floored. Yeah. I never thought that would ever happen in a million years. That, again, another defining moment. To me, that was like, wow, I'll do it, right? So I brought my daughter, who was 15 at the time, and we flew to New Jersey.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted her to be in the front row and see this, right? Oh my God, Troy, this was a trip and a half. Like, if you want to go into the Twilight Zone, this was me going in the Twilight Zone. We get to the
You went through one of the 5 doors.
Yes, I was in the 6th door. I think I went to the 6th door. This was the 6th. This was the extra level, right? So I get in there, and then the principal is so happy to see me. "Oh, Mr. Morales, that's great that you're here. Thank you for coming, this and that," right? Because he had read the book. And by the way, you recommended the book. There's 2 versions of it. One is the regular version. One's called the Highwayman Edition, which has got all the profanity taken out of it. Just so you know, if you're anti-profanity, Highwayman Edition, that's the one you want, okay? Because when they first contacted me, they said, "Yeah, we really want you to come speak, but the Spencer, he's got potty mouth, right? Yeah. Because he's cursing all the way through the." But if you notice, he stops cursing when he starts getting smart. Yeah. So it's all part of the thing, right? But it's bad. Yes. So it's like The Sopranos, but not quite as bad, right? And so I rewrote it for the school. And I called it Highwayman Edition because Highwayman was my high school team. That was my baseball team. It's called the Highwaymen. That was the name of the team. That's awesome. Yeah. So I named it after the team. Right? So that's why it's called. So I get back there and he says, "Oh man, this is great. I'm going to take you for a tour. Let me take you for a tour, right?" And this is an old building, an old school.
Still the same.
It's exactly the same, right? The school, the hallways, the lockers. I'm just got chills all the time. And my daughters. I mean, I'm trying to be cool for my daughter. Like I'm the cool. Yeah. I was bad, right? And then he brings me into his office. Yeah. And I walked into the kind of the reception area where And I looked down, and that chair was still there, the same chair that I sat in. I was there every single week. That was my chair, right? Yes. It was there exactly the same place, right? The secretary's desk right there.
That's funny.
And so he brings me into his office, and it's the same. And I was like 30 years later. This is crazy. So I did the assemblies, and everything went great, and it was wonderful, and that's what kind of spurred the film.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the educators now and coaches that I was kind of working with, and I'd been up in LA and producing events. I knew a lot of movie people, but I was never interested in making a movie. And so I was persuaded by some of my mentors, new mentors in the movie business, who had read the book and flipped out of it. This has to be a movie, right?
They loved it.
And so we created a script. We created a deck, and what I call the mentorship tribe. That's what we call.
And you
our,
raised the money from it.
all through ourselves. All ourselves. Everyone kicked in.
All your friends that were just
and
mentoring
they kicked in.
kids,
They kicked in. All the mentors.
You raised $1 million.
Yeah. And we made a feature film. So there you go.
It's amazing.
And that's how you do it.
And I love the story. Like, I didn't know the dirt merchant's where it came from exactly, but that's great. So folks, okay, one thing I would love for you to do is be able to watch some of the clips that Henning's actually got on YouTube. If you actually go, what is it again?
The best place to go is to just go to my site, which is henningmorales.com. That's the best place to go. Everything's there.
Okay.
Yeah, all the trailers and the.
So that's Henning Morales, HENNING MORALES.com.
Thank you.
We want to make sure we don't miss it so they can find it.
Yeah.
And we actually have so this is live right now, and we got a ton of people live that have been watching real quick. Shout out Bob Donnell, Aaron Robinson, Cheryl Goldenberg. Hi, Cheryl. Fred. Hey, Fred, hope you're doing great. He's part of Kyle Wilson's group, Jim Rohn.
Okay.
He built Jim Rohn International.
Jim Rohn,
Chris Hooker, he's been on the show. Right. Antonio Resendez saying hi real quick. Hey. Stan's on here. He's awesome. Have you met Stan, right?
No.
He's friends with Deborah. He was like a great LinkedIn guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Bob Crockett.
Okay.
He's a guy out of Los Angeles or Nevada. He's got an incredible company.
Wow.
Alan Taylor, actually, we actually had him watching, which is awesome. Alan Taylor hosted Burgers, had a bunch of shows.
Okay, great.
Great entrepreneur guy, good buddies with Scott Duffy.
Okay, Scott's
Carmen
awesome
Cipollone,
too. Yeah.
Hey Carmen, Ruben Mata, shout outs, Shane Swats, Derek Keller, Ron Parsons, Jennifer Evans, gonna say hi real quick. Jeff Wheaton, hopefully say hi. Mike Estrada, Nicole Payne, Melody Garcia. Oh my God, the list goes on. Jen Parker, Mark Thierman. Oh, hey, Mark, he's one of our clients, awesome client. Lives in Northern Nevada.
Great.
Incredible guy. Agatha Hall, hope you're doing great. Richard Rivera, Dale Kessler, hope you guys are all doing awesome. So we have the event coming up for your movie premiere. There's actually, it's actually happening locally. There's a bunch of them going on right now. But there's another showing of it that's happening this in a couple weeks, right? Down here in Orange County, California. So if anybody's in Orange County, California wants to come see this, please tell us that Sinopolis and the dates and the times for people to show up.
It's the 27th of September. We're doing a showing of the feature film, and that'll be at 7 p.m. And
it's a great time to bring their families, their kids.
Yeah.
Maybe some motivational talks.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awesome event.
If you want a ticket for that or space for that, check with Troy, okay? And then we'll get.
Personal message me, send me a Facebook message,
there's still
text,
some
call.
spots left. It'll be.
Hit us up.
But it's great because it's at a beautiful theater.
It's a great theater, and they're going to show the movie. Yeah. They're gonna have some different speakers, motivational speakers. So if you're a parent, I got a friend that's she's divorced. She's raising 2 girls by herself now.
Yeah. Bring your kids.
She's
bringing
her
teenagers.
Yeah. They're both teenagers. They're coming. It'll be an awesome opportunity. So Henning, thanks for sharing your story. It's a great story. I wish we could spend hours talking.
Can I share a couple more things?
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Are we done?
Please, no. You can share a closing thought. There's your camera right there.
Well, I want to thank you. And again, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go.
I just wanted to kind of maybe end with a couple lessons here.
Yeah, please.
Couple lessons that are important for teenagers and for parents and coaches. We spent a lot of time talking about the fun stories of way back when. But
please.
The things that I've learned over the past couple of years in hosting these seminars, we host a youth mentorship forum at USC. We've done 4 of them now.
That's awesome.
And we have there's a youth mentorship program at USC that prepares teenagers from the inner city for college, whether they're going to USC or not. So I'm working there, and then we did 2 on the East Coast, so 6 now. And my experience at these events is bringing in coaches and mentors and experts in different areas of issues that are going on with kids today, and then resources. So I encourage you to definitely come out for the screening if you can, but also check out our materials and interviews. We've got a lot of information on the different things, and I'll just list some of the things that are happening, not to get too far into it, as it's a big conversation. The teenage drug abuse problem that's going on today, a huge problem, very different from when I grew up. Okay, and when you were, I'm older than you, but different things are going on with that. The bullying issues, kids being bullied online, the violence that's going on with our young men is a major issue. People obviously getting weapons and causing problems there. We don't need to talk about how terrible that is. But what we talk about is the root causes of what's going on with these kids. And then resources to help and prevent some of that's happening. And then the teen suicide issue is something that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. When we were kids, that was not even a thing. So, and there's, again, all kind of reasons why these things are happening. A lot of it is, and again, let me give you some strategy. Again, parents and leaders who are teenage leaders and young adult leaders, definitely limit the social media, limit the social media. What social media is having an adverse effect on our young people's brains. It's documented. I could give you the statistics and tell you that we're not developing. It's really the prefrontal cortex not being developed. Our social skills are not being developed. So then when you don't have the social skills, you can't communicate like you and I are communicating, and you miss some of the juice of life, and then you start getting into issues. So limit the video games for your kids. Don't eliminate. I'm sorry, social media. Don't eliminate, but minimalize. And if you're contemplating whether your kid is old enough for a cell phone, he's not old enough, okay? So just expand that time out as far as possible. Also video games, limit the video games, and because the violence in video games is having a negative effect mostly on our young men. The social media is having an effect a lot of times on the young women, more times than not. And also limit the TV and the violence, the violent imagery on TV and in movies, so for your kids. So these are things that seem like common sense, but if you will set the boundaries and set the time limits for these certain things and be involved with your kids, that's really where the issues are. And I encourage parents, coaches, aunts, uncles, get involved and work on those areas to make a positive impact. And getting back to what I do, which is communicating through books and through films and through events. Everything we do is to encourage communication, to encourage seeking out mentorship, to encourage kids to encourage parents and kids to communicate. There's no violence in our movies. Very peripheral. Drug use, those kind of things, they're not there. It's positive message, positive imagery, so that we can counterbalance some of the negative that's going on. So I just want to end with that.
No, it's so great.
And just kind of just so and get involved.
How do you practically apply some of this stuff? I mean, that's the challenge. Like, what is that advice?
Well,
and the advice you just gave was fantastic. I mean, really soak in what Henning just said, because it impacts not only young people but even adults. I mean, if you apply that to your own life,
of course.
Limit the Facebook, limit the social media, limit the negative messages, because there's so much negative crap that we get bombarded with. How do you stay positive? How do you stay focused? How do you keep saying, I'm going to recharge my body? So I'm like, let's do this today. Let's make great things happen. Let's impact lives.
Well, that's why
that's why we're doing this show, so we can constantly keep pushing out the positive. Because there's literally unlimited negative shit, like just everywhere, and all the negative TV and all the news and all the just so much. It's like, okay, how do we shift our mind? How do we change our habits? And how do we do that for the young people that we're stewards of, or we're parents of, or we're running and working for us? Right. So Henning, thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
it's been awesome.
So much for watching. Go and have an awesome Saturday. And again, go and live your destiny, folks.